What a day, what a day, what an awesome way to wrap up training camp. Joint practice observations between the Texans and the Rams right here live in the locker room. We got a hell of a lot to get to. Let's get it.
You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey, locker room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too. Landlocked, got the game in the headlock. Localize every time, can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top two and we not too. Plugged in daily digital.
All right, it is the locker room, number one source for Texans digital content. I'm Landry Locker. I just got back from NRG, and I got to tell you, these are my favorite things. There's preseason games. There's the start of camp. I like it all. I like covering it all. I like enjoying it all. Football season completes me, and I'm sure it completes you. Be sure to subscribe, like, right along. Whether you're a Texans fan or you just want the pulse of what's going on with the Texans, you've come to the right place. We got some in-depth practice obs for you. And some practices are bigger than others. The national media, perhaps one of the most popular brands, especially among players, the Pivot was on hand. You had Ryan Clark, you had Channing Crowder, you had Fred Taylor. They were on hand. Saw them walking to the parking lot as I pulled up. Channing Crowder was kind of changing his shirt or whatever. Ryan Clark making the rounds. We know the relationship that they have with CJ and a lot of players. There was a lot of embrace. And they were just kind of in the media section, taking it all in and watching. It'll be interesting to see what they have to say about the Texans. But anytime the national media shows interest, especially given the football hell that we've been through in the past, that's always a good thing. Be sure to swarm the like button. We're going to hear from Demeco Ryans in a second. I have a couple of observations that stuck out. Yesterday, there were some interesting ones. There's real interesting ones right now. And I think a position that we've spent a lot of time talking about, it could be even more uncertain than we'd originally thought. So we'll get into that in a second. But other practice obs, pre-practice observations. So you had the pivot there. You also had this. This was a nice embrace from Demeco Ryans and Sean McVay. They spoke for probably about 5 minutes before practice. And you can tell that Demeco has a lot of respect for Sean McVay. I actually asked him about it, and we'll hear the full Demeco Ryans press session. But I asked him about his relationship with Sean McVay. Here's what Demeco had to say about that.
What's your relationship like in these situations? Do you kind of like to see how other coaches work?
With me, with myself and McVay, we've established a really good relationship from our time going against each other in San Francisco for I think 6 or 7 years, right, going against each other. And, you know, it's mutual respect, really respect the program that he runs there and how he has his guys prepared and ready to go play. And he shares the same sentiment with me. He's always encouraging, always uplifting. You know, after we played a game, always found a way to find each other after the game, right, and talk. So really respect what he's done in his league. He's winning. Did what we're all trying to do. He's winning, won it all, right? And he's done it really well and been successful for many years as a young head coach in this league.
There you go. That's Demeco Ryans on Sean McVay. And look, man, those guys have done some battles. San Francisco and the Rams back in those days. They've done some battles. They've done a lot of battles. I'll get to some of the questions a little later on, but those are just kind of the pre-scenes there. You had the pivot on hand. You had McVay and Demeco with the embrace. Some observations on the side field, and the side field is where injured players, they get workouts in. And look, I'm going to word this the right way because I don't know what these guys are doing when we don't see them during practice. I don't know the rehab that they're putting in. But as far as, and this is good news for Texans fans as we continue pre-practice obs. Pre-practice ob number one, again, the pivot on hand. Number two, just cool seeing Demeco and McVay embracing. Pre-practice ob three, Will Anderson was intensifying his practice process of returning. And I say practice process because, again, don't know what he's been doing behind the scenes. I'm assuming that these guys are working to get back on the field behind the scenes, but he was moving full speed. He was sweating his ass off. So the concern about Will Anderson, I'm not saying it's gone, but I am saying he definitely got a full body workout in today, and he did not look limited while doing that. Although it's a lot more difficult to pay attention fully because there was so damn much going on that practice field for sure. Me and Cody Stutes actually, we kind of divided up work. He asked me, do you want to watch the offense or the defense? You know, damn well want to watch the offense. So I watched CJ Stroud in the Texans offense for a large chunk. He watched Matthew Stafford, who, by the way, practiced today. I got to look at him. I'll tell you something that he did that was a little bit too familiar for Texans fans. Might break your heart a little bit at the end of the show. But if you want to get the in-depth on the practice, the defense, there is one theme that was easy to hear, and that was kind of making the rounds. Like people were whispering about it on that field. I'll give you that. But if you want the in-depth, go to Cody Stutes, because I'm not going to pretend that I saw something that I didn't. Saw a little bit. I'll tell you what I saw, but I'm not going to pretend. Not going to lie to you. But Will Anderson intensifying his practice process. We saw that. Noah Brown was working out on the side. Is Noah Brown a lock to make this team? I think that there's a little bit of questions to be asked about that. A little bit of questions that need to be asked about that. And we were actually having this discussion on the side during practice. So those are your pre-practice obs. Andrew Beck still trying to do whatever he's trying to do, but we did get intensifying work from Will Anderson, which is very, very encouraging because you got to see him on the field. Yeah, go ahead and swarm the like button for sure.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
Go ahead and do that for me, and be sure to subscribe and like as well. So as far as the actual practice observations, I want to give this guy some flowers because I don't think he's going to make anyone's observations today. I don't think he really stuck out. In fact, there might have been some struggles, but I just want to give some respect to Kendrick Green. Not Kenyon Green, Kendrick Green, because we don't know what Kendrick Green's role is going to be on this team or if he's even going to have a role. Now, I will say this. Last year, despite all the scrutiny in Pittsburgh and all the bad things they were saying about him, I think in his short time that he was on the field for the Texans, I thought he performed at a decent level, especially given how they talked about him in Pittsburgh. I mean, you would have thought you were getting the worst effing offensive lineman of all time. And I thought he held up nicely. Ended up getting hurt, and that was unfortunate. But I want to give him his flowers because yesterday he injured himself, slammed his helmet down, limped off the field. And today, maybe it's just because it's how he's built and he's just kind of cut from that cloth. But today, Kendrick Green was out there practicing, and you could tell he was in pain, but he was doing everything he could to not make that clear. So I don't know how much stock coaches put in that. I don't know if it's a desperate attempt. I have no idea. All I know is I saw this guy last year when he had the season-ending injury. He was walking in the freaking locker room, which made me think, okay, maybe this guy's not as hurt as we thought. Then we found out it was something pretty damn serious. Today, if you would have told me he was practicing today, I would have called you crazy. But he was out there. He was battling. He even got some first-team reps. So it's not going to be something that anyone's going to talk about, but I did notice it because I noticed him get hurt yesterday. So I want to give Kendrick Green some flowers for showing toughness, man, showing that testicular fortitude and going out there. Maybe you're fighting for your NFL life. Who knows? But I think he deserves some credit for going out there and battling his ass off for sure. So shout out to Kendrick Green. You get some flowers, no tulips. No roses. That's a little bit too much. We'll give you some daisies. Although I don't know if that's as manly. Other practice ob, and I don't like to say this. There was a national media type that got his first look at this offensive line. And it's safe to say he was not impressed with what he saw from this offensive line. Matter of fact, he said, "What is wrong with this offensive line?" Late in team, the offensive line got kind of roughed up. And we'll go in depth on that, but the offensive line might be bad. I'm not saying it's going to be awful, but the hope that this is going to be an elite offensive line, I just don't. I would not bet on that. Can it be an average offensive line? Perhaps. Is everyone going to stay healthy? Don't know. I mean, we saw Laramie banged up last year. Titus has had trouble staying on the field. Mason's not getting any younger. We've seen Kendrick Green and we've seen Scruggs get hurt. I don't think this offensive line is going to be terrible. I just don't know that it's going to be as good of an offensive line as maybe we'd hope, which would be the same song and dance. Other thing that I think we need to make note of, and I actually asked CJ Stroud and I asked Demeco Ryans about this, and we'll get into that in the night stream, the 10:30 night stream. We'll talk about this a little bit because I think if you haven't done your fantasy draft yet, you're kind of wondering, when the hell do I take Joe Mixon? When should Joe Mixon be selected? I think that's a valid question. I think it's a fair question. But one element that I do think perhaps helps Joe Mixon from a fantasy perspective is if the offensive line isn't good and if they're struggling to run the ball effectively, what does that mean? That means that they could perhaps be a team that strength is throwing the football. And I think that's going to be the case no matter what. Joe Mixon in the last 3 seasons, he's had 52, 60, and 40 receptions. And today was by far the best that we've seen Joe Mixon look in the pass game. Now, in fairness, he was out for an extended period of time, so there wasn't an opportunity to see that visually. But today, you could visually see what Joe Mixon can bring to the table in that area. There was a play where he kind of ran it underneath. He went up about 20 yards. CJ Stroud, just a perfect dime to the sidelines, toe tap, inbounds, long play by Joe Mixon. The entire crowd goes crazy. CJ Stroud goes crazy. And then there were a couple other plays in the pass game. So I do wonder if Joe Mixon is going to emerge as a legit threat catching the rock. I think he is. Shout out to Rock Dub P. He was out there. I know he was noticing Mixon as well. He definitely did his thing. I think that Joe Mixon as a receiving threat, I think it's a real thing for sure and something to keep an eye on. Another observation before we go in depth on stuff, the wide receiver situation is interesting because early in the process, we didn't think that Woods would be here. Then it was like, well, they brought back Woods, so maybe that means that they want to keep Woods. You hear CJ Stroud talk about Woods, and you say, well, he loves him. But he also says the same thing about Mechie. Then there was the Mechie situation where Demeco Ryans came out and said he needs to perform in a game. People started to wonder, what's the status of John Mechie? Then John Mechie did his thing, and naturally you started to think, okay, well, maybe Xavier Hutchinson's in trouble, and he's not going to make the squad. But Xavier Hutchinson's continued to have a good camp. There was an interesting observation involving Xavier Hutchinson that might be a coincidence or might be something a little bit big. And it involves a guy who was flipping burgers, Cal McNair. Cal McNair and Xavier Hutchinson encounter that I found interesting. We'll get to that in the obs in a sec. Be sure to swarm the like button as well. It is the Locker Room, #1 source for Texans digital content. But I'm watching this, and if you're watching practice, and I actually like when fans are able to see what's going on because I think we have a smart fan base. I think I have a smart viewing base. I think I have a smart listener base. Some old dated formats might think that their listeners are dumb and they can just go on there and say whatever they want. I don't hold myself to that standard. I try to do the best job that I can. I'm focused on that, not sauce. So I think that a lot of times fans can notice things and fans can see things that they add to what I'm seeing. For example, yesterday, the lead HOU, Harley Duggan, he saw exactly what I saw. British Brooks getting reps at fullback. If you're watching this, Robert Woods is pretty much a third-team receiver right now. Now, he might occasionally get a first-team rep, but he's pretty much a third-team receiver. If you look at the first-team receivers, we know who they are. But with the second team, as soon as Davis Mills goes out there, and you notice it because it's almost like a buzzkill because you're so enamored with watching what CJ Stroud and this offense is going to do and watch them get work. So as soon as Davis Mills goes out there, it's not like something that sneaks through the cracks. You see it, and then you immediately look out there. It's been Xavier Hutchinson and it's been John Mechie out there as the receivers. Robert Woods comes in after them. And you're seeing more and more from Xavier Hutchinson. And you're seeing Xavier Hutchinson continue to make plays. So I just think that there's a strong chance that we see Hutchinson and Mechie on this squad. Now, does that mean that Noah Brown is done? I don't think so. But I do think that Xavier Hutchinson can develop into a Noah Brown type receiver. Maybe that's next year and the year after that on the final year of his contract. But I do think he can develop into that. The Woods thing is interesting too. Do they feel confident enough that John Mechie and Xavier Hutchinson in a game situation that those guys can produce like Woods? I don't know. I just know that watching this, and it could be as simple as Robert Woods is a vet and they don't need his ass out there with the first team because they know what they're going to get. He's the opposite of a box of chocolates with Forrest Gump. You know what you're going to get with Robert Woods. So these guys need the reps more. It could be that simple. But it hasn't been this obvious early on in camp. That he hasn't been getting this little reps in camp. You'd see him come in with the second team, but there's clearly their impressiveness, their lack of satisfaction and their desire to see more from Xavier Hutchinson. It has 100,000% grown since camp began. And I think it's fair because we've seen Xavier Hutchinson get better and better. So the wide receiver situation is very interesting. And then you also factor in that John Mechie was playing more special teams yesterday. And it just seems like stuff's kind of adding up and things are getting, I guess, interesting is the word. We also had J.J. Watt on the scene. This was between Team 1 and Team 2. J.J. Watt, he is absolutely continuing to lift weights this offseason. And this might be the toughest weight of all because this weight does not stay still. It is tough to lift at this age. He's a little ahead of me in the game, but we had J.J. Watt on the scene lifting weights. Look at JJ. Look at this guy right there making the rounds up and down. He had the Andre shirt on. He had the baby. Baby seems like it likes to run a little bit calm, but once you set it down, that thing's running. I don't know how long it's going to take for it to be flipping tires like daddy, but it was running. And we saw JJ out there and immediately, you think he's going to play? I don't think so, but I would not completely dismiss it. Not completely. So we got to see a little bit of JJ action out there as well. Not only the national media, but JJ Watt as well. Let's get to the team stuff. Let's get to the stuff that actually happened, the stuff that you may not have gotten to see. So again, I was on the offensive side. So I was focused more on the Texans offense, not so much the defense. Did walk over there and get a peek. And I'll let y'all know. I'll just take y'all through exactly what I saw at practice, and we'll go in depth on that. Be sure to swarm the like button, subscribe, right along, all that type of stuff. So we had a first play in which CJ Stroud found Stephon Diggs for 50 yards on the first play of team. This completely set stuff off. Stephon Diggs knows how to work a crowd. He catches the touchdown, flips it a little bit, looks over to the crowd, show me some love, pumping them up a little bit, and there's a lot of excitement. Now, that excitement led to a procedure penalty on the next play, but CJ Stroud recovered nicely. He finds Dalton Schultz in the middle for 10 yards. You then had a Joe Mixon run up the middle. You had a beautiful dime to Tank Dell for 15. CJ Stroud dealing early. Then you had a misdirection to Joe Mixon behind the left side of the offensive line. Probably would have been at least 10 yards, maybe more, depending on how he broke tackles. Then you had another procedure, a nice Pierce cutback, but they just don't look as nice. I think this probably would have gotten 3 yards, went from like perhaps losing 2 to 3. And then you had a play action to Diggs for a few, but there was immediate pressure, kind of had to dump it, not get it to him in stride. And then on fourth down, I think it was 4th and 7, Dalton Schultz just right at the first down marker, incomplete though, because it kind of bounces in front of him. So that was the early one. Stephon Diggs gets it started, and then it kind of dies down a little bit from there. Then we go to Davis Mills. Davis Mills, again, you had Xavier Hutchinson, you had John Mechie as your wide receivers. You had a meh run from Dare Ogunbowale. Then a really nice cutback by Dare Ogunbowale. This looked like a guy who likes this system for maybe 5. And he's looked way better at running back than he ever has. And I don't know if that's saying a ton, but he looks way better. Then you had a Mills busted play rollout, probably would have gotten his head knocked off. Akers blown up for maybe 1, and then a Skoranek-like game. Then Davis Mills. This is just kind of the Davis Mills experience. Maybe he doesn't do this in a game, but he's rolling out on the side, probably at about the 16-yard line. There's the guy in the middle is covered. The guy in the back corner of the end zone is covered, and he still tries to throw it. Fortunately for him, it was behind the DB that was in front of the receiver had he tried to throw that. He almost benefited from making a bad throw, because if he made a good throw there, then it's probably an interception. And then John Mechie. This wasn't a highlight catch like we saw from him the other day, but John Mechie, he just a nice physical catch. Kind of a timing route out, the DB all over him. Mechie makes the catch. Probably would have been about 1 yard shy of the first down, although in a game, he might have caught it and kind of lunged forward. So you don't know, but it was a hell of a catch by John Mechie. Good timing between he and Davis Mills. Offensive team too. So after that break, let's get some water. Both sides getting water. Matthew Stafford, I kind of glimpse over my shoulder. Matthew Stafford's doing his thing over my shoulder. Didn't anticipate seeing him, but Matthew Stafford was out there. Again, Cody Stoots channel, HOU football for that in-depth breakdown. Not going to pretend that I saw it, although I did get to see Matthew Stafford in a situation that might make you feel terrible and a familiar feeling as a Texans fan. We'll get into that on the back end after we get through with the Texans team breakdown. Then we get to team 2, offensive team 2. Nico Collins, another explosive play on the first play of team. Nico Collins on a slant. It would have moved the chains. He might have gone to the house. I mean, maybe that it was for sure 10 to 15 yards. Once that dude gets running, though, we've seen it. He's hard to bring down, and he caught this ball, and he was full steam ahead. So this slant would have, at the very least, moved the chains, perhaps a little bit more. Then a national media type gets impressed. You're kind of in a tent watching practice. Ryan Clark of the Pivot was to my right. There was a pitch play, and they're doing a quick pitch with Joe Mixon, which I like a lot. It's almost like a quick pitch, and he's not having to put his head down or anything. He's immediately upfield. They're doing quick handoffs too. But there was a run from Joe Mixon, and Ryan Clark even said, "Man, that's a hell of a cut." And then he walked to do whatever he had to do. But even he was impressed with the vision and the cut of Joe Mixon. Then we had perhaps the play of practice. There were a few. You could say the Diggs 50-yarder, very, very nice. Very, very nice play. Very, very nice play. But I talked about Joe Mixon in the pass game. Joe Mixon starts in the backfield, goes out to the sidelines in motion. Kind of, it might have been a wheel route. Just saw him on the sidelines. CJ Stroud drops a dime, boom, 20 yards. Joe Mixon, ball spin, back to the sidelines, go get some water. And you could tell that Joe Mixon was feeling it after that. Then there was a Dameon Pierce screen. It was a very nicely executed Dameon Pierce Green, and then the offensive line. Bobby Brown, not the Bobby that used to beat Whitney. Bobby Brown of the Rams, he had a sack that probably would have ended badly for the Texans. And this is where the offensive line started kind of getting roughed up by the Rams. So you had the Bobby Brown sack, then get some water, offensive team 3, little special teams going on. They start off offensive team 1 with the Diggs touchdown, offensive team 2 with the Nico Collins slant, offensive team 3 procedure. So can't win them all. Then just a lot of slop, few plays of slop, runs going nowhere, pass plays going nowhere. And then this was the worst play of practice. We can argue amongst ourselves the best play of practice. Could have been the Diggs 50-yard TD. Could have been the Mixon dime. I would personally vote for the Mixon dime, but I respect everyone's opinion. But Steven Sims, man. Beautiful slant to Steven Sims. And he's getting a first-team rep here. He catches the pass from CJ Stroud. Beautiful to Steven Sims. Steven Sims goes all the way across the field. He goes to the left side. He's got all types of room, similar to when he scored the touchdown against the Ravens on the punt return in the playoff game. No one around him, no one within probably 6 yards of him. Fumble. He's just carrying the ball and then fumble. It was literally like this. Maybe it was sweat. He's running, fumble, recovered by the Rams. I don't even know if that got punched out, really. Did it? I don't know that got punched out. Hey, different views. Maybe we see it. I don't know that got punched out. It kind of felt like it just slipped, unless someone was out of my vision. Again, crowded tent. Just kind of dropped it. I don't know about the punch out. Maybe so. There were other people there. Kind of just fell out of his hand. Either way, not good. But that was the Steven Sims. And then we had Davis Mills come in. Skoranek with a catch. It gets negated by another penalty. Pierce up the middle. Really good cut by Dameon Pierce. And then you had that man making it very difficult on this coaching staff. That man, Xavier Hutchinson. He runs the post. Xavier Hutchinson. Big boy catch, man. Total big boy catch by Xavier Hutchinson. He gets up, spins the rock. End of that team period. Get some water. Get some rest. Well done, Xavier Hutchinson. You've given your best effort here. So there you go, for sure. I couldn't tell if 26 hit it or not. It looked like it just popped out. We'll see. Check the tape. Let me be Demeco Ryans. I'll have to look at the tape. It was punched out. Okay, punched out. All right, let's relook at that punch out. It was definitely a bad play, though. God, it was bad. Steven Sims, don't know what the hell you were doing. So then we got a little bit of a look at red zone. They actually started out at the 12-yard line. We had CJ Stroud, bootleg. They are not executing very well on play actions and boots. And early on, it was screens. It seems like they've kind of fixed the screens. The screens have gotten a lot better execution, like the screens to the running backs. But now it kind of feels like when they're running boots or when they're running play action, and not play action where both sides of the field are in play, but like play action either to the left or the right, kind of feels like the defense is getting in there early. And that was kind of what happened early on. CJ Stroud, though, he's really good at throwing it away. So you have that. If you didn't have a quarterback that was capable of throwing away, it could be death. But CJ is really good at that. Then you had a Mixon. We talked about the quick pitch, nice quick pitch and cut. Then a sack. It would have been a sack. They found Mixon in the end zone, but this would have been a sack in a game. So it was just kind of everybody stopped for sure. Then we had a throw behind Dalton Schultz, and Davis Mills enters the field. Everybody goes to the restroom. Just kidding. This one was interesting. So this was an observation just right here. It was right in front of us, where the media types were. Hannah was over there working the crowd. Cal, I think he'd just come over from cooking burgers. I guess today he was flipping burgers and dogs. Throw to the sidelines, back of the end zone. Xavier Hutchinson kind of dives. It did everything that he could do to possibly catch it. I know some people were arguing it, that it was a catch. Who knows? I'm sure like in NFL replay, like that type of thing, maybe the challenge flag gets thrown. Don't know. But Xavier Hutchinson, he tries to catch it. He dives. The refs call it incomplete. The one in the front is going like this. And then Hutchinson comes over, grabs a knee on the sideline. Cal McNair handed him a towel, man. Maybe he would have handed anyone a towel, but he handed him a towel. So I don't know what to make of that. Is Xavier Hutchinson making the team because Cal handed him a towel? Embrace debates. Put it in the comments. I think he just would have handed anyone a towel. So, yeah. Then CJ came back in, another sack. This one was Byron Young on Fisher. Fisher kind of got a little bit beat up today. And then you had a Stephon Diggs slant touchdown to wrap that up. Then Davis Mills came in. Everybody went to the restroom, went to get one of those Cal McNair hot dogs. If you weren't watching, I got you covered. You had a Pierce Meh run, another Pierce Meh run, a suspect TD, perhaps a sack, and then a Woods TD in the front corner as he came in a little bit late. So that was what we saw on offense as far as from the Texans. Big takeaways. Robert Woods getting less and less reps. What does that mean? Who knows? Xavier Hutchinson continuing to do his thing. CJ Stroud and Diggs, they're doing their thing as well. And you had some pretty good stuff from Joe Mixon, both running the rock and catching the rock, which is a complete new element to things, and could be something that you might want to look into as you're deciding to draft your fantasy rosters. So that's that. So after that, I looked over my shoulder. They were doing some special teams on this field. I looked over my shoulder. I looked up at the scoreboard and I said, damn, we got some situational. Then I looked at the Rams and I said, oh, okay. Matthew Stafford in situational. Now, part of me was excited because, like CJ Stroud, I think Matthew Stafford is one of the underrated quarterbacks. He says he's one of his favorite quarterbacks of all time. I agree. I like Matthew Stafford. I was happy to see Matthew Stafford win a Super Bowl. So that was my first thought. Then I thought about it and I looked at the scoreboard, and the scoreboard said the following: 23-21, a minute 20 left, one timeout on their own 30, down 2 points. Matthew Stafford in that situation. And I remembered how many times I've seen the Texans in this situation where you just got to get one stop to win the game. You just got to get one stop to be done. And I'll be damned. What you had gotten used to happened. You had Matthew Stafford with 23 seconds left at the 34. So he moved the rock very, very precisely to slot receivers, outs, all that. You had a batted down pass, and then he found Cooper Kupp from the 34 to the 19 with 7 seconds left. He ran up to the line of scrimmage. He spiked it, and the Rams would have had a 36-yard field goal with 7 seconds left to win the game. A lot of me says that they probably would have made that, and it would have been that familiar feeling that Texans fans have seen when their defense has been unable to get the job done. Then Matthew Stafford, high-fiving his teammates. Good execution, fellas. Good job, baby. Good job. Hey, good job, Cooper. Hey, what's up? Good job. Good job. Good job. Blah, blah, blah. In comes number 11 for the Rams, a man by the name of Jimmy Garoppolo. I got to tell you, as a placeholder, a cheap placeholder, I don't know that I would be too disappointed in like a Jimmy G situation, like if you had a placeholder like a couple of years ago. But at this point, this dude hurts my eyes. This happens a lot when I go to training camp. I get out of the car and I have that HEB spray sunscreen, which is the same as like the, is it Bahama Gin, whatever the hell it's called? It's the same thing, but it's spray sunscreen. It works very well. Still allows you to get a little bit of color, so you're not too pale. I don't look like too pale of a honky. But sometimes when I spray that, I get it in my eyes, especially during training camp, especially when it like gets hot. So it hurts your eyes so bad, like to where like sometimes your eyes are just so red because the sunscreen gets in your eyes. Man, that is like a massage compared to having to watch Jimmy Garoppolo play quarterback now. That dude sucks. He is bad. And maybe that wasn't the case a couple of years ago, but at this point, he is, in the words of James Franco in one of my favorite movies, Pineapple Express, he is an absolute lingerer. Jimmy Garoppolo, I watched a little bit, and then I just said, okay, after 2 skips on first and second down, and then a corny-ass slant completion and another incompletion, I said, all right, I've seen enough of this. Watch me some special teams. Desmond King, by the way, in that special team rep, Desmond King had a nice kick return, I think. Maybe he would have been tackled. I don't know where Des King fits into the squad, but he did have a nice-ish kick return. Linger. Yeah, it's the best. Can't stand the linger. Shout out to Pineapple Express. What a damn movie. So as far as the Texans defense goes, though, and we saw the Jimmy Garoppolo situation, the Texans defense, the theme of that, and I think this might be a theme all year. It's definitely been a theme of camp. Danielle Hunter was dominant. Danielle Hunter, I think, would have killed Jordan Whittington on a reverse. Cody Stutes will have this in-depth information for you. Perhaps would have killed him on a reverse. Also had a sack, at least 1, maybe 2. The Danielle Hunter, Will Anderson combo is scary. It's absolutely scary. We talk a lot about the receivers. That is a scary thought. When you're talking about a guy who had 16 sacks last year, 16 sacks. I mean, that's outrageous. And it's not like you're going to double him. Will Anderson last year was getting a lot of attention. You're going to give Will Anderson that attention and not Danielle Hunter? You're going to give Danielle Hunter all that attention and let Will Anderson not get it? It's a scary thought. And Danielle Hunter was apparently pretty damn dominant on defense, which is not surprising. Dude's got arms for days. Absolute arms for days. CJ Stroud after practice, I asked him about the difficulty of managing egos. We'll hear what he had to say in a sec. But first, wrapping up the final team period, team 5. You had a swing pass to Mixon, then a bunch of meh. You had a Nico sliding catch, and CJ Stroud's day was done. Then Steven Sims perhaps redeems himself, whether it was punched out or whether it fell out of his hands. They had a nice little reverse to Steven Sims where he had some open field. Very well executed. I know we all know that Bobby Slowick likes them reverses. So, yeah, it was nice to see Steven Sims go out there and work his magic. Said no one ever, but I like Steven Sims. Here was CJ Stroud after practice. So we know that this is CJ Stroud's culture. We know he's going to be the face of the franchise. We know he's probably the biggest star in town right now when it comes to sports. And we know he's going to have the C on his chest. But they brought in Joe Mixon and they brought in Stephon Diggs. And those guys are not only really, really good football players, they both had the C on their chest before as well. And I just asked CJ Stroud, you're the leader. This is your team. What's it like, though, when you have two guys who've been captains of really good squads and you kind of balance this being your squad, but you're still kind of embracing, and he's done this publicly, but you're still embracing what they bring to the table?
Balancing your leadership on this team, and you have Diggs and Mixon come in who've been captains. What's it like just making all of that kind of gel to where it's still your squad, but you're taking in what they've learned?
Football. It's not give and take. It's just me being myself, them being them, and coming together as one. That's it's not about me, Joe, Steph, LT, nobody. It's about the team. We have a ton of great leaders, and I'm actually grateful because I don't always have to be the vocal one. I can lead by example, also be vocal, but somebody else to say something to somebody. Like Dalton, Aziz. A lot of guys are stepping up a lot of different ways. So I'm not selfish with leadership. I want everybody to be have a say so, and the more guys, the better.
Balancing your leadership on this team.
And I like that. And I think for CJ, it's probably easy. But, it's got to be a little bit difficult, because, you're a young guy, but this is your squad. And then you have guys coming in. And look, I don't think it's hard for CJ Stroud. And I think a lot of times whenever we talk about CJ Stroud, or I won't say y'all, whenever I talk about CJ Stroud, you're naturally comparing him to his peers. And I don't think there's a lot of quarterbacks in the league. I don't think there's a lot of quarterbacks in college who are going to go play the game of their life. Their coach is kind of going to wet the bed time management wise, like Ryan Day. And then the young man is going to grab the mic from the coach and kind of speak on his behalf and defend him. We see the opposite. You see Nick Saban grabbing the mic for Will Anderson and Bryce Young, and those are great young guys. We see Mac Brown at Texas OU grabbing the mic from Chris Sims. You don't see a 20, 21-year-old doing that on the biggest stage after the probably most disappointing result of his life. You don't see him going up there and grabbing the mic. That's what CJ Stroud did. You don't see a quarterback who has a hurt shoulder. Both of his starting tackles are out. He's going against a pretty physical D-line in the Indianapolis Colts. He shows up to the stadium early. He plays. He gets his ass roughed up, thrown to the turf violently. Who knows how many times? Sacked damn near 6 times. You don't see that guy go up to the podium and praise his offensive line and talk about the effort that they give. You don't see that. So when I compare CJ Stroud and I say, it's got to be, I guess, difficult is one word. You can pick whatever word you think is better. But, it's your squad that Stephon Diggs, Joe Mixon are coming in, and they both look up to him too, despite the fact that they've been veterans in this league for damn near a decade when he was not even a teenager. So it's not much for CJ Stroud, but I think when you talk to CJ Stroud about things, I think you got to ask him from like a human perspective of someone who's maybe a younger guy that's not ready to do that. Because the maturity is through the roof. The maturity's through the roof. So it's probably not hard for him, but it would probably be hard for a lot of other guys, a lot of other humans. But CJ Stroud's a little bit different when it comes to the intangibles. Who knows how he plays this year? There could be some struggles, but the one thing we know is that the maturity is there. And you know how you can measure maturity? It's not how you speak whenever things are going well. Whenever you beat Jacksonville or you beat Pittsburgh or you win the playoff game against the Browns or you win a national championship or you win a Big Ten championship, where you see maturity. And I didn't have this. So I'm not even saying that. I don't even think it's realistic to expect anyone to have it. I don't think it's realistic. It's special when you do. But when you see that maturity on display after you lose to Georgia and your coach wets the bed time management wise, despite you having the best game of your career, when you get roughed up against the Colts, that's what maturity is, not the front running. And there's a lot of front runners in the world, and CJ Stroud is definitely not one of those. So props to him. Cut down day is Tuesday. So we'll do a 53 on Monday. I see people doing 53s. We'll wait till Monday. Wait till the final preseason game. That boy Lowe's, you're late to the stream. What the hell's wrong with you, man? Take your ass to the office. Get your ass down there to the office. Here's a pass. Get your ass down there. Get your tardy slip. But you're supposed to spray that sunscreen on your hands and then rub it in, from what I was told. It helps rise. I mean, obviously, dude, but come on. You want to spray it and then rub it in. You're telling me do you spray the sunscreen on your hands and then rub it on your arms or legs? You're saying just on the face, man, you got to spray it. Just kind of happens. Pause like a mofo. But yeah, that's what it is. Let's hear from Demeco Ryans. Demeco Ryans met with the media types. I asked him about his relationship with Sean McVay as well as Joe Mixon's role in the pass game. Here's what Demeco had to say after a joint practice. Love me a joint practice. I think Demeco likes smoking them joints, not the actual joints with
high-grade marijuana called Kush on the streets. Did you know what that was?
But the joint,
me neither.
But the joint practices. Here's Demeco.
Working, we set out to accomplish, right, working a lot of situational football, and we were able to do that. Thought it was a clean practice on both sides, a lot of competitive juices flowing on both sides as well. So it was really good work. Happy that we were able to get that work in today.
What do you see as the biggest benefit of having practices like this?
The biggest benefit of this is we get to go against a different team, right, different schemes, all three phases, and just see different players. Like we have our matches where we go one-on-ones or whatever it may be, but it's always the same receivers, same corners. So now our guys get the opportunity to get as many reps as possible against a different player, right, and to see, how they run routes, right, to see how they come off the ball as a D-line and how we need to protect. So it was really beneficial in that regard.
You and McVay helped embrace kind of before practice. What's y'all's relationship like? And in these situations, do you kind of like to see how other coaches work?
And with myself and McVay, we've established a really good relationship from our time going against each other in San Francisco for, I think, 6 or 7 years, right, going against each other. And, it's mutual respect, really respect the program that he runs there and how he has his guys prepared and ready to go play. And he shares the same sentiment with me. He's always encouraging, always uplifting. After we played a game, always found a way to find each other after the game, right, and talk. So really respect what he's done in his league. He's winning, did what we're all trying to do. He's winning one it all, right, and he's done it really well and been successful for many years as a young head coach in this league.
How beneficial is it for these rookies to have this type of practice setting and you be able to teach them like that?
It's big for all of our guys, not only rookies, it's the entire team. I think everybody benefits from this. Like you just seeing different things. Like they know our offense kind of knows what we're running. They know our coverages. They know, like, we try to disguise. They kind of know our disguises. So after a few weeks of that, it kind of gets monotonous. So being able to go against a different team, it breaks the monotony of camp.
Demeco, I've heard a number of your players talk about how not everyone could play here. What do you think it's about what you guys have here that's unique?
For me, it's just a style of play, right? It's how we play. It's a relentless style of play. It's a swarming mentality from all of our entire team. And it's hard here, right? First, starting with the conditions in which we work in, it's not the same anywhere else, right? We work in different conditions. It's a little tougher. Guys have to be able to handle that. And the biggest thing is not complaining about it. Like, we're going to work hard. We're going to be physical. We're going to play fast. We're going to practice fast. And guys, you're about that, then you could probably make it here.
What are the biggest things you're looking for in the last preseason game on Saturday?
This last preseason game, really looking forward to the guys who get the reps, seeing them grow and improve. Right now, it's that kind of like that final exam. Right, we've been going for about a month here in training camp, and all of the coaching points and all the tips we've been giving guys. Like, can you go out and pass this final exam? Like, how much have you grown? How much have you learned? And can you showcase that, right, on the big stage?
So Mixon make some plays in the pass game. What do you think about his ability as a back to make plays as a receiver?
Yeah, Joe is a receiving running back. That's what sets him apart. Everybody understands the running game, how physical he is, and how he's able to gain yards. Even when it's not blocked well, he can still gain yards. But he has really good hands out of the backfield, and he's a guy that if it's not open down the field, we can take the ball down, and he's a reliable guy who can get us explosives in the passing game as well.
Demeco, excluding the upcoming game Saturday, does this type of practice from a coaching perspective give y'all a lot more to really evaluate players on as opposed to doing it at the game?
Yeah, great question. There's no doubt about it. This gives us a lot to evaluate from for our guys, like seeing how they handle different situations, seeing how they handle different looks from an offensive perspective and a defensive perspective, and see you see who's steady in those moments, and you see who's still kind of swimming and trying to figure it out. So it really helps us to see all of the rules and things we've been teaching, like are guys able to stick to it or do they kind of waver? So this is a really great evaluation tool to see us going against another NFL opponent.
There was a play afterwards where we saw McVay walking across the field, talking to CJ, obviously giving him some input. It's just like the teacher in him. Is that the kind of thing you like about dealing with a coach like that?
Yeah, I love working with McVay. He's always upbeat. He's high energy. He's always encouraging, always teaching. Like even if whatever it is, defensively, like, hey, great play, hey, or offensively, like the guy's just full of energy. He's a positive guy. He's a guy I love to be around because he's always coaching, always teaching. But you can tell this guy loves football, right? And whether it's encouraging CJ or uplifting Pitre, like that's what he's about. And that's why he's been a successful coach in the league. Hutchinson and Rod Woods, they've been making plays all camp. And it's the same today, guys. We've been consistent and made plays all throughout camp. There's two guys you can count on, Hutch and Woods. They've been making plays, so no surprises that they made plays today for us. It's hard for me to say right now. It's a lot of football for me, bouncing back and forth on both fields. We have to go back and watch the film.
We'll close with Cody and Will.
Has Jalen Pitre settled into that slot corner, walk down role that you guys have kind of used him in camp so far? Has he settled in like you wanted to?
Jalen has done a great job. He's been one of our most consistent players throughout camp. And I'm excited with what Jalen has done and, just bright future ahead of him based off what he's done so far in this camp. He's had a really great camp, and that should lead to a really good season for him.
Last one, CJ gonna play Saturday?
Say it again?
CJ play Saturday?
Whatever you think. What do you think? All right, I'm out.
There you go. Whatever you think. Hey, the answer would be no. CJ Stroud will not play Saturday. Sorry if you got tickets. I did not anticipate that happening. And I damn sure don't want Will Kunkel filling out any roster or lineups. Shout out to Will Kunkel, Fox 26. One of the best TV guys in the game. A couple of comments before we make our way out of here. I'll tell you what else we got going on. Appreciate everyone for coming through, by the way. It's fun going to these practices. I hope you can feel my enjoyment. We've been through hell with this squad. We've been through some good-ish times. Seems like it's fun. The energy you can kind of feel. And no days off for us. We're just having some fun, enjoying it. The top guy in the radio game, top guy in the digital game. We're going to keep this coming through. And there's plenty more coming your way that I look forward to presenting to you once the season comes. On top of this channel, we'll be here all the time. Couple of announcements coming up. But first, let's wrap up the comments. So yeah, in and out. How about them runs by DP? I guess they were okay. I don't know. I mean, he looks better in practice, I guess. Who's your surprise cut? If I had to list them, and I don't know whether there's surprises, like potential surprise. Like if you gave me like odds and I was in Las Vegas and I was putting an odd sheet out, as far as guys that could potentially get cut that maybe we don't anticipate, I would put Pierce on there. And I'll say cut or traded. I would put Pierce on there. I'll put Robert Woods on there. Way dark horse would be Noah Brown. Desmond King I would put on there. And then maybe CJ Henderson, you could put him on there. But those would be like just the names that I would put on the odds board. D-Town 7639. I'm a junkie for football, and the only fix I need is week one. I got a feeling if you're a junkie, you need a little bit more than that. Gus, if it comes down to either Mechie or Hutchinson, who you're keeping, it's not going to come down to them. Mechie's safe. I could see both of them making the roster. They seem to like Hutchinson. It's going to be a difficult decision. I think Mechie's good, though. Do you feel Mechie and Hutch have done enough to replace the OG receivers? God, that's tough, man. That's really, really tough. I don't know. What? Maybe, maybe not. Don't know. Landry, since you're with 6'10", how are the McNairs treating you the same? Great. Talked to Hannah for probably 15 minutes yesterday. Talked about our kids and stuff. Her daughter, by the way, badass. I think that's not too bad. Badass flag football player, man. She caught a pass and then did a cartwheel. She showed me on the phone. Yeah, they're great. Cal, too. Talk about the burgers before. They're fine. I'm good with all the guys at 6'10" except one. That's good. I love all those people. Love everyone in there. There's just one guy. Going back to the Pineapple Express lingers. I did not eat any Cal's burgers, and I don't appreciate the slander there, Derek, at all. Robert Woods, yeah, he could be a surprise cut. He's getting less and less reps. For sure. If DP is gone, do you feel Brooks' chances to be on the team increase as the big back? He was playing some fullback yesterday. I don't know that you need a, quote, big back. I think Mixon can get you yards. On 4th and 1, I think you can put it in the chest of Joe Mixon and he can fall forward. I think they like Dare. They've used Dare in that role before. So, big back, I don't think they need a, quote, big back. I like Brooks, though. I think Brooks is intriguing from a developmental standpoint, and I do find it interesting that he was getting some fullback reps yesterday. But as far as needing this big back, I don't know. I think they just need as many running backs that are playable, that they trust as possible. Big, small, I don't care. So yeah, and I don't even know that Dameon Pierce is a big back anymore. He's a lot smaller, for sure. Kamari Lassiter's nice. Someone asked how he looked. He's fine. I mean, he's a good, very, very good number 2 corner, looking good. The corners are going to be really, really nice this year with Stingley and Lassiter. Resetting the biggest obs from today that you need to know in order to feel like you were there. So Will Anderson, the intensifying of the side work, that's an encouraging thing. Now, again, he could be doing this all the time, but typically whenever they try to revamp players, they're out there with members of the staff. Don't know whether they're testing or what, but when you see those guys, typically it means they're probably a little bit closer to coming back than the guys who are not. Still haven't seen Christian Harris there in a while. We had the pivot on hand with Ryan Clark and Channing Crowder. I anticipate there's going to be some good Texans content coming out on that end, so let's keep a lookout for that. Sean McVay and Demeco Ryans, real recognized real. That was cool to see. CJ Stroud and Matthew Stafford, real recognized real. So that was cool to see. Robert Woods on offense getting less reps than Mech and Hutch. Maybe that's a pitch count thing. Don't know. Keep an eye on that. Kendrick Green, reset those flowers. He gets flowers. I gave him flowers at the start of this. I thought that Kendrick Green being out there and gutting it out was admirable. So shout out to him for doing his thing. I'm concerned about this offensive line. I think it might be okay, but don't know. But I am encouraged. And maybe this is a good way to perhaps overcome that by the possibility of Joe Mixon as a receiver. And he's been pretty effective at that. We got the visual today. Appreciate everyone for coming through. Those are your Texans Rams joint practice obs right here in the locker room. We'll be on the scene throughout the week. Saturday, 1-year-old's birthday, swim party. So we will put a bow on the preseason as a whole on Sunday afternoon. So on Sunday afternoon, we will do the highlights. We will do all of that. I'll drop a video on Saturday morning. I'm going to be at the pool with a bunch of, with a 1-year-old, getting probably more Elmo stuff than I can even imagine. So that's where I'll be on Saturday. I'll make my way back very, very early Sunday morning and spend your Sunday morning with me. We will put a bow on the preseason. Maybe we'll do a 53. Now, I kind of want to save that for Monday. Who knows? But we'll get the preseason wrap. The night stream tonight, the CJ Stroud Podium Critic dropping tomorrow. What a time to be alive. My goodness, we're almost there. What do we got? 2 weeks and 3 days, less than 20 days, less than 18 till the opener. Always remember when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together. Thanks for coming through. Thanks for joining the locker room. Be sure to subscribe, like, ride along. And always remember when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together. What a time to be alive, baby.
On YouTube, we got taste for days. We got takeaways, If it's up, then it's up. We number one. You don't need to try your luck. Locker room, yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk, yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize, every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too.